Hello and welcome back to the Life on the Wrist podcast. If you know Life on the Wrist, you know that I have an incredible affinity to MB&F. It's one of the brands that I love. I love the most when it comes to watchmaking. And there was some big news this last week for the brand, and I wanted to share that with you. So I'll start off with the biggest news that was released, which was the fact that, and I'll sort of quote the press release that MB&F did, but on the eve of the 20th anniversary of MB&F, MB&F has taken a major step to ensure its long-term future by welcoming Chanel, a private company, as a strategic minority shareholder. This is a pretty big move for MB&F, which has always solely been owned by Maximilian Busser and his partner, but now Chanel is investing in MB&F. It is a strategic investment, and what really is the common message coming out about this specific move is the fact that it is a major step to ensure the long-term future of MB&F as a company. So I'll read a little bit just about from the email that was sent out about the partnership. So MB&F is thrilled to announce a partnership with Chanel, who has taken a 25% stake in the independent high-end watchmaking brand. Founder Maximilian Busser retains the majority of MB&F with 60%, while his partner in the company, Serge Kirchhoff, head of R&D and production, owns 15%. These two will continue to lead MB&F in collaboration with Charis and Thibault, who are the head of marketing communications and the head of sales, respectively. There's a comment by Max Busser, who said, it was our responsibility in today's very favorable context with our management team in its prime to take this major step to ensure our long-term future, a natural evolution for a company celebrating its 20th anniversary next year. In addition to allowing us to pursue our independent path, free of any pressure on growth, the investment by Chanel will strengthen our operations by providing access when needed to their wider ecosystem and network of specialized suppliers. So naturally, the first thing that one will think about is maybe the perspective of Chanel, and there was also a comment by the president of Chanel Watches and Fine Jewelry, Frédéric Grangy, who says, we are delighted to sign a strategic partnership with the MB&F, who share the same values of independence, creativity, and excellence. The announcement is part of our long-term strategy to continue to preserve, develop, and invest in specialist know-how and expertise, reaffirming our position in high-end watchmaking. So this is a pretty big step forward for both brands. This isn't the first time Chanel has done so, where they've invested in a sort of similar high-end watch maker who is sort of in this independent sphere. Roman Gautier in 2011 was one of the investments that Chanel made, as well as FP Journe in 2018, and they have remained independently run. So I think that's somewhat of a reassurance of, from MB&F side and the way in which Chanel has approached these things. So, of course, the first thing that you think of is kind of on that same vein, which is MB&F still truly an independent company? Max Busser still retains the majority share of MB&F, and it seems like through the communication that has been sent out, it seems like the independence of MB&F will continue, and it will remain a very similar company. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but King Flum on Instagram actually wrote a really great article where he went in depth on the investment and what it will hold for MB&F, the future of MB&F. So I highly encourage you to just check out his Instagram. And if you go to the website where he posts his articles, I would give it a read. I think for me, I will always continue to have an absolute love for MB&F as a brand, the creations that they've made, and I will always find, at least in the stuff that they've produced to date, some interest in their products, and I don't think that's really going anywhere with this minority stake of Chanel with this brand. I think the biggest thing for me is maintaining the essence of the brand, which is producing these horological pieces of art that come from the imagination of the great mind of Max Buser. But looking into the future, I really hope that when the torch has to be passed, that there are great minds that will come up with designs, similar designs for the watches that MB&F ends up producing and selling, because it's a very difficult thing for a brand to do, to have such a deeply rooted ethos and design language with their pieces. And I also think the communication of those ideas is really important as well. And it's really hard to pass the torch to a new group of people or a new person who would be leading these sort of initiatives. And I don't envy Max to have to try and figure out how that's possible. I hope that the upcoming years is where maybe there will be some movement towards that that transition, because it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So we'll have to see if how this minority stake plays out, and we'll I will continue to support the brand and support the things that they do, as long as they continue to speak to me, right? And I think that's the most important part. So first off, congratulations MB&F on this new partnership. Congratulations to Chanel. I look forward to seeing what this will bring in the coming years. And as an enthusiast for MB&F, I hope that it continues the wonderful work that they've done over the last 20 years. I will also mention that in the email that they sent, there were some interesting pieces of information that I didn't know in the past. There was a really cool, there was some information about both MB&F and Chanel in the email. And one of the things that they mentioned was the idea that the company crafted 419 MB&F wristwatches in 2013, and they have revenues of 45.4 million in 2023. So kind of some interesting information about the brand was also sort of documented in their release. Now, in a similar vein, I wanted to move on to Mad One, which is sort of this parallel project that MB&F has, where they create very similar sort of horological pieces of art, but for maybe a more accessible price point. And they've done this, I think, since 2021. And what they've released this far are these Mad Ones in different colors, really, really cool pieces. And there was an email sent out last week about the fact that there is going to be an unveiling of the next Mad edition on August 24th. August 27th. Now, when you're listening to this, is going to be August 27th. So this is going to coincide with the release of that. Obviously, I'll do a follow-up in the next podcast to discuss the actual piece itself. But I think it's very exciting that Mad One is sort of continuing, and it's going to be exciting to see what they end up producing. The only thing that I am not hesitant, but at a more accessible price point, I really hope they don't produce an excessive amount of these pieces, because I think that there is something in this lower quantity production that makes MB&F special. And so I just wanted to sort of put that. But with this new release, they've also sort of changed the way in which you can acquire one of these. So if you don't know, it's been a raffle system to be able to be allocated one of these pieces for you to be able to purchase. And I think it's a really cool mechanism. The first thing that they have changed is that if you had participated in previous raffles and you hadn't won a piece, you automatically have double the chance to win this next Mad One, which I think is really great, and in some ways is kind of like a fairness play, right? And then the second thing is that they're going to be going through a new pre-authorization process where there will be a hold on your bank account until the raffle concludes, and then once if you win, the amount will be charged, and then you'll receive the watch, and if they don't, then the hold will go away. So some different rules, but I think also it puts a little bit of an element of safety into the process of going through this, so that you don't have maybe fake accounts or fake registrations that are going through. So stay tuned for that. When you're listening to this podcast, if it's the 27th of August, it's going to be released today. So check out the MB&F website. I'll leave a link in the description of this video for you to see that. The last thing I wanted to just quickly note was the fact that Geneva Watch Days is coming up, which is a very exciting time for watch collecting. If you don't know, it was launched in 2020 by 6 founding members: Breitling, Bulgari, Debutune, Girard Perregaux, H. Moser, and MB&F, and is essentially a decentralized event that allows for brands to showcase the timepieces to the public they've produced, discuss current topics, and celebrate high horology, where you have the opportunity to go to different boutiques and hotels to sort of experience all of this. What's really exciting is that this year there's going to be 52 participating brands, and it's going to be held at the Rotondo de Mont Blanc from August 29th to September 2nd. This is quite exciting that it's going to be happening starting on Thursday if you're listening to this on Tuesday of this week, but very exciting that it's going to happen. If you are a watch enthusiast located in Europe, I encourage you to try and get over to Geneva to participate in this really great event. Quite exciting. I think there's some very good brands that are going to be showcasing their pieces, as well as some great panels, and just another opportunity for you to enjoy and celebrate watch collecting and your love for watchmaking. I'll leave a link in the description to some of the program, both the website and the program for the show. There's on different days there's going to be sort of media tours, but then there's also, like, as an example, I'm looking at the first day, and there's a symposium on how is the watchmaking industry facing ethic and sustainability challenges, and there's also going to be some press conferences. I'll give you an idea of just some of the other maybe symposiums. The second one on the second day is which emerging brands are making waves in 2024, which, somewhat subjective, but would be quite an interesting one to listen to. On the third day, on the 31st, there's a symposium about who are the influential women in the industry. There will also be a symposium about why chronometry still matters despite atomic time. The third is major evolutions in the secondary watch market and third-party authentication and ratings. Then there's, on September 1st, the symposiums are Your Way, a symposium about guilloche, which is Your Way or My Way, craftsmanship and maîtrise d'art and their enduring relevance. And then there's one about hype piece collectability, from vintage masterpieces to modern grails. And then the third is how major players in the pre-owned market become influencers. And then I think that wraps up the symposiums. But there are going to be a lot of other events that are going to be taking place, some really great topics being spoken about, some press conferences with different brands, so quite exciting for this. I'll be curious to know if any brands are going to launch any watches during this time period, but regardless, it's going to be a nice event where watches are going to be covered, and hopefully the enthusiasm for watch collecting is really celebrated, and I think that's a very important part about our hobby. So with that, I think we will wrap up this episode of the Life on the Wrist podcast. As always, there will be links in the show notes of this podcast to all of the things that we've discussed during this episode. So be sure to head over to the show notes of the podcast to go and check out some of the topics. There will also be links to lifeontherist.com as well as our social medias. So if you want to get more from Life on the Wrist, you can head over to those links as well. With that said, guys, if you are new to the Life on the Wrist podcast, be sure to follow us and share this episode with a friend. And if you wouldn't mind rating this podcast, it really does help the show out. With that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.